Make your marks.
You're listening to the Pool Boy Olympics podcast.
What a week in London at the Aquatics GB Swimming Championships and Olympic trials as the swimmers of Great Britain attempted to get their tickets for the trip to Paris for the Olympics. Steve here with the Pool Boy podcast. Bob and Katie are with me as ever, and we're going to run down events in London in what was a really exciting week of swimming. Now, we haven't got 2.5 hours, so we're not going to go event by event or day by day or anything, but we are going to pick some highlights and pick out some swims that caught our eye across the week and talk a little bit about the selection discussions that are no doubt going on in the Aquatics GB headquarters as we speak. But Bob, you were there all week. It was good meet, wasn't it?
It was a great meet, and most of the things that we hoped would happen did happen. Most of the big names did perform. The crowd seemed to enjoy it, good atmosphere, and great to see that London's going to be hosting it for the next 4 years.
Katie, you were remote. You enjoy watching it on the streams?
Yeah, I did actually. It was quite a nice addition to my evening. I was a bit sad when it was over, particularly because the last night was so great. I really enjoyed it.
No, it was excellent, and no doubt we will come back to that last night in a minute. But let's dive into the swimming and pick out some of the highlights from the week. And I'm going to go first and get my bid in early for the swim of the week, because my view very much that Ben Proud on the penultimate night for the 50 freestyle was my pick of the swim of the meet. I was chatting to some people beforehand about what he might do, and I got some incredulous looks when I suggested he might go 21.4, and he went 21.25. Katie, he's just incredible, and we say it a lot, but he is.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to be that far ahead on a splash and dash. You know, he's just another level. I so want him to do it at the Olympics and complete his set. Absolutely brilliant.
And the first time since when that we had 2 in the 50 freestyle going to the Olympics?
And 4 men under 21, 22 even.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Really great race.
Yeah, it was a really great. I don't know when the last time we had more than one was. Bob, do you? I mean,
I can't. In my time of covering the swimming, I cannot remember a time where we've had 2 men in the 50 freestyle.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was great. He was great. The race was great. He spoke to you, Bob, in the mix zone afterwards. Let's have a listen to see what he had to say.
So 11 years at the top level, and you're not slowing down, are you? No, I mean this is what you see with sprinters. You know, the post 28 is just a starting game, and to be honest, I'm really enjoying my lifestyle as a sprinter now, and the demands of the sport aren't quite as high as they used to, and that just itself gives longevity and sustainability to being a swimmer. But to be honest, the results from tonight really make me feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I'm just super chuffed.
The exciting thing, it looks like there's still more to come, and unbelievably there is, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we prioritised this season to be building through the year, and coming down to rest in Doha was good for the racing experience, but I need to get some serious work in, and the 50 freestyle now is really having its time in the limelight, and there's a lot of guys who are going to be quick, threatening that 21 barrier, and just to be a little bit closer gives me some reassurance that I'm not drifting too far away. Clearly you'd love to have the whole collection and do it all, but I've put myself through hell trying to get that Olympic medal, and I just don't want to set any real hard standards for myself. Tonight all it was just doing my race as I wanted to, and that's exactly how I'll focus going into the Olympics. But clearly once you're in the final, it's a race, and if I can get that medal, it'd be fantastic. A huge achievement for myself, because there's now a lot of guys focusing on the 53 and really giving it a good go. Yeah, I mean, you have to dream, you have to want it, but you don't have to need it.
So interesting. He's talking about his longevity, Bob. Maybe we'll see him for even longer. I mean, past Paris, he's certainly not talking like someone who's going to retire. And B, he seems relaxed about the prospects of getting or not getting an Olympic medal.
Yeah, I think he's very wary, and seeing other swimmers doing this, of putting pressure on himself for the third time round, going, right, okay, well, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm doing the times I need to do. I'm ahead of where I was going into Tokyo, and I obviously ahead of where he was going into Rio as well. So I think it's a case of he knows his body better than he ever has done before. His training sessions are working really well. He's knocking out great times in April. So I think he's going, well, we'll see what happens when July comes around. And, if he doesn't do it this time round, that might be the incentive to carry on. If he does do it this time round, maybe he'll go, I've done my bit. Thank you very much and goodbye.
But Katie, it's interesting to hear him say he's building through the year. I mean, he was 21.5, 6, 7, something like that in Doha, 21.2 here. If he keeps building, who knows?
He sounds so good. He sounds so confident. Obviously, he looked great in the pool. I've got a really good feeling about this summer for Ben Proud. I do. I suddenly do. So I know it's so hard on the 50 because the smallest thing that doesn't go to plan, and that's your race gone. But he's just preparing for everything, isn't he? He just sounds so well prepared and so professional. And I think if anything doesn't go right on the day, it will be something that's unanticipated, because I just think he's preparing for everything.
And I think he sounds different now, Steve and Katie, that, when we first saw him, when we first got to know him, he was very self-effacing, very quiet, didn't actually say a great deal at all. And I think he's got that confidence now that he feels he belongs on the world stage and can mix it with the Cam McAvoys and people like that. He's not haunted or daunted by them.
Indeed not. And he's so consistent that his rivals know that he's not going to give it to them. So they know they've got to beat him, which must be a really good place to be in. So fingers crossed for Ben.
It's to see what Matt Richards does in that event as well, because he's taking it seriously, and it's going to be the back end of the event for him. He may well be knackered by that time, but he's still going to give it a good old crack.
No, he was adamant he's going to swim it, wasn't he? So we'll see him in that as well, tail end of the week. Interesting stuff. Now, I've picked my swim of the week. Let's move on and talk about a swim which I feel Bob may be putting forward as the swim of the week in the men's 400 IM, and rightly so, because it was excellent. But you must be extremely pleased to see Max Litchfield, A, back competing, but B, swimming so fast.
Absolutely delighted, absolutely thrilled. No, he was not happy at all with his 200 free. In fact, the last glance I got of him was him looking extremely miserable coming out of that B final in the 200 free. But yes, I am thrilled for him. Doha was the start. He broke the British record. I know he's been wanting to do that for quite some time, and he looked very, very comfortable indeed. And followed on not long afterwards by his brother getting on the team as well. So it was a great week for the Litchfields. Brilliant that, he's been through this terrible 18 months to 2 years. And, as he told me, he's managed to ride the waves literally and come out the other side on top.
And we know, Katie, that he's not been completely out of the sport, because he's been training in Italy and South Africa and racing in the US and what have you. But it still must be difficult to come back, slot back into a performance centre in Loughborough and then come to a British Championships and, need to perform, need to show why you've been let back into that centre, and to deliver a British record in the 400 IM. That's no mean achievement.
Yeah, I think he must be so mentally strong, because I don't think that many people could have responded to the tough time that he's had like this. It's the best possible response that anyone could give for being shut out and having missed out on things that events that he would have probably performed incredibly well in and done very well in, and he's just made a case for himself back on the team, and that's such a great time. I just hope we're just going to see him getting better and better. I mean, it's not often that you see people sort of at this stage of their career, and I'm not saying he's at the end, but he's certainly not right at the start. He's been around for a long time, but knocking out best times in an event like 400 IM, it's a really special thing that he's done this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the summer. That place is well earned, I think.
And funnily enough, it's not my swim of the week. That's still to come.
Oh, jolly good. Hey, you've caught me out. All right, there was another British record, though. Took down a 15-year-old British record that was set by Liam Tancock in a shiny suit at the Rome World Championships over 100 metres backstroke. That, of course, went to Ollie Morgan. So let's have a listen, see what he had to say.
Olympics bound, Paris. How's that sound?
Amazing. It's a real dream come true. It's been in there for a while. When it was 2 years ago when I went to uni, it was Paris could be on the cards. You never know, do you? But it's been a real drive, and the improvements come every step of the way. So yeah, it's been going really well.
British record. What do you put the big drops down to? Anything specifically?
I think just that dedication. Every day. There's not been a single blip in my training, and yeah, I get up every day, enjoy it. I like being in the trenches, being tired, racing tired. Bucks was really good, and it shocked me to be that fast, but that's the fun of it. You just push it no matter where you're at and enjoy yourself.
Now, enjoyment was something that came across a lot in that interview, Bob. He really seems to be loving what he's doing at the moment, and that's got to be a big factor.
Absolutely, and to say he wasn't on our radar 2 years ago, we wouldn't have known anything about him until he had his massive breakthrough year last year. And, what I love about it is, he's equally at home, feels equally comfortable at 50, 100 and 200. And whilst this might be slightly left field, my swim of the week was actually his 200 backstroke, not his 100 backstroke. The way he came back on that last 50, the way he came back on the last 25 was astonishing. Well, we were right in line with the halfway point of the pool. When he came where we were, I think he was either second or third, and I'm thinking there's no way he's going to win this. His turn of speed in that last 25 in the 200 backstroke was phenomenal. And just on the basis of that, beating Luke into the wall, I just saw that 200 back, even though it wasn't a massively quick time compared to his 100, I thought his 200 back was phenomenal.
Well, he did finish like an absolute train. And Casey, you sent me a text watching it from home to say how good it was. I mean, I think he also said that he's still, after that race, that he was still learning the event, and evidently he's got some pacing lessons to learn. But it's an incredible finish from him.
I was actually, because I sent Steve a text that said that last 50 was incredible, and I was texting it with 25 to go, and what I was actually texting about was Luke, because he was coming back like a train, and then suddenly out of nowhere comes Ollie Morgan, and he's like, yes, your train, I am actually on a Shinkansen and I'm going much faster than you. It was unbelievable. And as Bob said, the way that he's improving across all three distances actually of backstroke is really exciting. I don't know what's going to be his best event. I think at the moment it's just about the 100 on the world stage, and obviously really excited for our medley relay prospects as well, because it's been an area of weakness a bit for us, but yeah, great. And I like someone who's happy to be on a team, so that's the sort of interview I like to hear.
Well, he did say a lot more to Bob about his journey, about how he did other sports when he was younger, because he is a late entrant to this level of swimming and the medley relay. And you can keep an eye out. We'll do something with that and share what else he had to say, because there was some really great stuff in there. So look out for that. But let's move on and talk about the top women's swim, certainly by World Aquatics points, but probably the one I would have picked anyway. That was Abby Wood's 200 IM. 208 high. Katie, first PB since the last Olympic year, and great to see her kind of. She had a little bit of a lull. I'm not going to say it was a dip, but she was not her normal self maybe for a little period, but she's right back at her best. Yeah,
she was so dominant in that event, and I think I sort of expected it to be a bit more of a fight between 2, 3, maybe 4 of them, and she just took it on right from the start, and she seemed so happy all week as well, sort of on a similar theme. And I think we've seen her looking quite stressed and a bit anxious. Maybe it helped having that 200 free on the first day, knowing that she was in a really good place right from the start, and was just able to carry that through the week into her best event. I still don't quite understand why she doesn't do 200 breaststroke anymore, because she was just so good at it, but she's also amazing at 200 free and 200 IM, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does at the Olympics. I think it's probably an event that has slightly fewer opportunities than it did in Tokyo, but I still think you got a lane, you got a chance, and she's got her lane, so that's brilliant.
Well, let's see what she said to Bob about it, because she did talk a bit about targets for Paris and bits and bobs. So here she is.
World-class time today. You must be delighted with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. My PB was from the last Olympics, and obviously that was behind closed doors and family didn't get to see it. So to be able to do that today, back at my best with them watching, is just so nice.
What do you put it down to? Why the big improvement? Indeed, the big improvement from Doha as well.
Yeah, I think mainly my freestyle, like being able to actually fight for the race on the last length rather than just hoping I don't die. Dave has really made me focus on freestyle with Freya. We've been targeting the 4x2 relay as well, and any other stroke I target I know helps my medley, and I think my weakest length has been my freestyle for a while, even though I am kind of a freestyler now, so it's never really added up, and I just think keeping my head down and like going to my arms on the last length has made the difference.
2:07 has been a bronze medal at most of the events recently. You're pretty close to it.
Yeah, the girls are churning out 7s and 8s constantly. They're all in inches of the world record, and I just wanted to get an 8 here to be able to give myself a shot. Yeah, I just want to be as competitive as I was at the last Olympics, because it's so much more fun when you're in the mix.
Well, she certainly put herself in the mix, Bob, with that swim, and she was very good over 200 freestyle as well, with the nomination time there. Whatever she's doing with Dave Hemmings seems to be working.
Yeah, and I think she can get down to a 2:06. I mean, that's the range that Siobhan had, of course, when she won that silver medal at the Olympics. I think she can knock another second and a half, maybe 2 seconds off that time. Give her a bit more, 12, 14 weeks to do it. Yeah, I think it's in there. And Katie makes a very good point about her confidence. You heard it in the interview. I saw it. Looking at her face, she feels again like she belongs. She feels like she's in the right environment, and everything seems to be working very well for her. And the events, or rather the disciplines and strokes that she's not been quite so confident with, are starting to come into place now.
I did hear someone say that she might be coming back to the 200 breaststroke maybe next season, but evidently the relay and training with Freya and what have you has had a big impact on her freestyle. She called herself a freestyler there, Katie. There you go. So not a breaststroker anymore. But she's a great addition for the 4x2 as well, right back at her best in the freestyle events.
I think she actually did. Yeah, she did her best time, didn't she, in the 200 freestyle? Yeah, she looked brilliant. That race was actually a lot closer than I thought it might be. So if that's been considered a weakness before, I mean you'd be a 156 200 freestyler, and you consider your freestyle a bit of a weakness. That shows you're in a pretty good position.
Yes, indeed. Now, she was second in that race to Freya Colbert, who was a 156 low, not quite a PB, but very close to it. But she then basically got out and said, well, I'm not going to swim it. She was only doing it for the relay, and fair enough. I can understand why she would do that. She was helping the team to get their qualification time, obviously in the absence of Freya Anderson, and maybe we'll come back to her situation a bit later. But she went on and swam a lifetime best over 400 IM. Now she's the world champion, Bob, 400 IM. She looked like a world champion, I suppose, in the way she went about that event. Yeah,
and the thing that I had a real problem with that week is trying to think of original questions, because I think I talked to her about 5 times during the course of the week at different points, just showing what a successful swimmer she's become, how high profile she's become, and how that kind of pendulum now between the male swimmers and the female swimmers is just moving back in the direction of the girls a little bit now. But when you think of the workload she's got on the events that she does, difficult events that they are, she nailed them all pretty soundly last week, and it was a bit of a shame for me that she was not thinking in terms of the individual 200 free, but she's got bigger fish to fry, and events where she thinks she can get Olympic medals too.
Well, one of those events where she will be looking to put herself in the mix is that 400 IM. You were dredging up original questions, Bob. Here's how she answered them.
And that was 3 seconds or more quicker than you went in Doha. So what have you been working on between then and now?
Well, I think Doha was a bit different because, like I said, it wasn't rested. It was off the back of altitude. So I think it was just kind of completing that training phase and getting that race pace in. And I feel, I said to Dave before, I just feel so at peace and at one with the event. I've raced it so much this season so far, a lot more than I would have done, and at that higher level, and doing a lot of 400 IM work in training, I think it's just given me a lot of confidence for the racing side. I know exactly how it's going to feel like, and so I just felt, at one with the event. I think my breaststrokes really improved a lot this whole season, and so that definitely probably helped me get that PB. I have no idea what any of the splits were, but like it felt pretty good in the race, so I'm going to go with the breaststroke. But yeah, just completing the training cycle and having that race pace, and yeah, just the race-specific training, what we did.
And what are you thinking about this event on the world stage? Where do you think you fit into it right now?
I mean, I was fifth in Doha. I haven't, obviously a lot of the other countries' trials haven't been yet. I think 4:34.0 is a good place to be. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a 32 or a 33 to win in Fukuoka, to medal in Fukuoka. So I think there's definitely more work to be done, but I'm pleased to make that step forward, even if it didn't get me like to the 4:32, the 4:33 round, but I think it's definitely doable. And by the end of the year, like, I hope to be up there with sort of the adrenaline and everything else that comes with the event of being Olympics. I feel confident I can get down there, and when I'm in that race with those girls, hopefully I'll have enough to get to the wall.
Well, I think she was still running on adrenaline when that interview took place, because full of energy and excitement. But yeah, she's got some great prospects for the summer. She's in tough events though, Katie, isn't she? 400 IM, 200 IM. Well, not 200 free now, but difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's absolutely right in that the 400 AM is probably where the most opportunities are. I think there's, Summer McIntosh is obviously a huge front runner. But after that, I think, she's right. There are other people who've been sort of 4:32, 4:33, but it's not one of those events where the door is shut or where there's so many people that are so far ahead. Like the 200 free is a really tough one. So, I think it's a really smart choice that she's prioritizing that event. And I wouldn't be surprised to see her on the podium. She is dropping time so fast. If we think about where her 400 AM was probably a couple of years ago, I mean, she's a completely different swimmer. And being able to improve, seeing the improvements in one stroke like she's seen in her breaststroke is actually really, really exciting. And she's probably in the right hands, I think, with Dave Hemmings by the sounds of things. And he's got great calibre on coaching breaststrokers as well. So I'm sure he can make huge improvements with her.
And she was doing a lot of her training with Max as well. I mean, there was on her YouTube channel footage of her doing stand-up 400 IMs with Max chasing her, things like that. So I mean, that's going to help both of them, you would think, going forward. And obviously they were both very good in their 400 IMs this week. Let's move on. The big story from the first day, Bob, was the return to form of a certain Adam Peaty, 57.9, which was a bit of a surprise. Well, to me, it was a bit of a surprise. Katie and I said on the preview that 58 low would be very encouraging. 57.9, excellent from him.
Sitting there on the first morning of the event thinking, right, what are we going to see here? Are we going to see something special, or are we going to go, oh my God, our medley relay is getting in trouble for Paris in the summer? And he came out and knocked out a really good heat and looked very good, didn't tie up at the end, looked like he had a lot of steam left in him. So we waited to see what he could do in the evening session, and he usurped it. He trumped it. So, it looked great. He looked great. It was all that we really wanted to see from Adam and more. And certainly this time of the year, when you consider that's the best time he's done for 3 years, with all the travails and all the problems he's had the last couple of years, that was particularly impressive, I thought.
Katie, what did you make of it?
I wasn't expected to see a 57, and so obviously that was a pleasant surprise. I think the biggest surprise for me was how different he seemed in his interviews. I thought he just seemed really at peace with everything, and I just thought pretty calm, didn't seem stressed, probably a little bit less of the sort of fighting talk that we've seen before, but he just didn't seem to need it. He just seemed very happy with how everything's going, which is not the Adam that we've seen over the past couple of years, and it's really, really nice to see him seeming happy.
I think it's fair to say, Bob, he was a bit feistier in the mix zone.
Yes, he was particularly feisty in the mix zone. Some of the interview you wouldn't be able to use on a family network. Some words, some expletives were used during the discussion we had. I might have been a bit provocative and provoking him a little bit in that respect. But no, he and the great thing was he did a lot of time in the mix zone. Normally Adam would be like, here comes your 3 answers and I've got to go and swim down. He did telly, he did 2 lots of telly, then he did a couple of other podcast outlets as well, including me, obviously. And I think we probably about 6-7 minutes with him, which is unheard of, really.
No, he was keen to let people know that he feels like he's back. So and that he had more to give in the summer. Now that interview is quite long, as you say, so we'll save that for a bonus podcast. So watch out for that, because there are some interesting things that Adam had to say. But we'll move on at this point. Just being thankful that he is back. It makes a big difference to the medley relay. Obviously, we've heard from Ollie Morgan already with the British record there. Adam back to his best, or close to his best. Anyway, makes a big difference to the prospects for that team. I'd say while we're on that subject, then let's talk about the big medley relay story, which was the men's 100 fly, which did not go as expected, shall we say. I know James Guy described his swim as a complete shambles. We just did not go the way he wanted. I don't think anybody, Bob, even you, would have predicted Joe Litchfield would have won that event.
Absolutely not. I don't imagine for a moment that Joe Litchfield would have predicted that either. In fact, I'm hoisted by my own petard. I'll admit what I said beforehand. Having seen what Jacob Peters did in the heats, I thought he was going to go and break the British record in the final, because I thought he looked so good in the heats. And I thought, do you know what? The way he's looking, I think that British record's going to go. At halfway, he was, I think, inside it, or certainly on a par with it. At 50 metres, I thought, everything's coming to plan. Everything's looking really good, looking smooth. What happened off the wall, I really don't know, and only he maybe could answer that question, because after that, he was swimming in treacle. And as was James Guy. And we're all looking around going, well, what is happening with this race? And there was a lad on the far side, I think he was in lane 2, wasn't he, Joe, in that race, who snuck through to win it, obviously with the PB. Not a world-class time, particularly, not compared to what James has done, what Jacob's done. But Joe took his chance, and as we know, Jacob finished third, and James wasn't even in the top 5. So that race was completely turned upside down.
It makes, no doubt, we might touch on this in the selection debate to come, Katie, but it does make for some interesting decisions in medley relay terms. I mean, I don't know what you would do.
Well, I think I know what I'd probably do now. Now we know how some of the other selections are probably looking. I think something that is really important to say is that Joe Litchfield has earned his place on the Olympic team. And I think there's been a lot of chat about this relay and this particular swim and who's going to do the fly. But he's the one that performed in the final, and he's the one that touched the wall first. And that is how he earned his spot on the Olympic squad. And I think that sort of has to be the end of that. And I think people need to congratulate him for being the one who took the chance. Regardless of who actually swims the event at the Olympics, I think we've got James Guy on the squad in the 4x2, and he'll be there. And he is a proven excellent swimmer in 100 fly and relays. He's a proven brilliant relay swimmer. So it might well be that he gets, used when push comes to shove. But there can be no debate, I don't think, about whether or not Joe Litchfield earned his place. He absolutely did, fair and square.
And bear in mind, this time round is that James will not have 100 fly swim that he had last time round. So that takes 2, potentially 3 swims out of the equation for him, unless they put him in, of course. But, it's a bit difficult to do that when he's finished 6th, didn't he, in the event?
Yeah.
I also think, there'll be more of a question there, because short of doing a time trial, he's untested in how his fly's doing. And, based on this week, how is his fly looking? Not as good as his freestyle, not as good as it's looked on other times. So it's perhaps a little bit more of a gamble than it would have been, or it has been previously, to put him in that relay. But, we all know that James Guy can rise to a relay occasion if required, and he has routinely done it.
Yeah, and the thing is, he is one of the best relay swimmers we've ever had. So whether you talk about freestyle or you talk about fly, so it's a case of, right, does Joe fall on his sword and do the heats and James does the final, or is that unfair?
I mean, I think they're just, it'll be something that you wait and see. But I mean, there's part of me that thinks, well, the last time these people were put under pressure on a fly swim, Joe's the one that performed the best. So maybe he should just get that slot. I mean, they'll have loads of ways of looking at it, loads of opportunity to assess how everyone's looking. They might make James do a time trial to see kind of roughly where he is, but that can't be at the expense of any of his other events. So
Joe will do the individual anyway.
Yeah, but James, I assume, won't, because I don't know if he's got.
I wouldn't have thought so.
The relevant time to do it.
The fact is that you'd know that probably in a relay, James will potentially go quicker than Joe. So, and that could be very key, because we've always been talking about the backstroke being probably our weakest event or our weakest stroke. Now the fly is our weakest stroke.
Indeed, and it's an interesting point for the mixed medley as well, because probably the fastest combination now is to have Ollie Morgan and Adam up front, and swim one of the ladies on fly, and then obviously Anna on the anchor, rather than having a male butterfly because of the time differentials. So it's going to be a lot of interesting selection discussion between now and the beginning of August when those races take place. But let's step on talking about fly. The very first qualifier, actually before Adam on the first day, was Kiana McInnes, and I know, Katie, we spoke about her on our preview, that we thought maybe she had some more to give, and she did very well.
Yeah, she was excellent. Actually, we should say that Stirling as a collective were absolutely exceptional all week. I really thought they stood out as just being fantastic. But it was great seeing Kiana get on the team. A very pleased Olympic qualifier, which I always like. And then she came back and did a really great 100 as well, which I know hasn't been a total focus for her. It's a kind of bonus event. But it's nice to see someone down in the 57s, which has been the 100 flyers probably are an area of weakness a little bit for us as a nation. So, a great swim, really great week for her.
Well, she was a very happy qualifier, as you say. Here she is speaking to Bob.
Pinch yourself, it's happened, and you're going.
Yeah, it is. It's really incredible. I kind of can't believe it almost. Like, I knew I'd been training really, really well. I'm in the best shape of my life. But yeah, I'm kind of like night one. It's kind of amazing to be first.
Scottish record, and tell me about the way you approached that race.
It was kind of to make sure I was relaxed down the first 50 as I could be. I know I've got that easy speed and that it would come naturally because it was a final. And then sort of build the middle 100. I know Laura got a bit away from me, but as my coach said, like, you've got the whole of the last 50 to if I need to catch back up. And I guess that's what I did. Down to the last stroke, I think it was probably, to be the first one to go under the time and win my event. It's really special.
Well, she was very happy, Bob, to get there, but it was a great race between her and Laura.
A terrific race between the two of them, and again, that's what we need more of, don't we, in British swimming, always have done, is having people chasing each other, putting pressure on each other, making them go to levels they haven't gone to before, extending their range, that kind of stuff. And that those two are doing that in the fly, and we'd like to see that duplicated or triplicated further down the list in both the men's and the women's events. But those two are definitely pushing each other on, and she loved the environment. As the first day, she'd never been in an environment like that, I don't think, and she certainly leapt to the cause and also really enjoyed the environment.
Well, she did very well. She won that 200 fly. Laura Stevens in second also made the nomination time, so we'd expect to see her go to Paris. Another event on the ladies' side which had a good race, though, was women's 200 backstroke. Bit of a surprise on this one, Katie. I mean, we did pick that Honey Osrin might be one of the bolters, to make the team because we like an Olympic bolter. I'm not sure either of us thought she'd necessarily win the event, though. I mean, Katie a little bit off her best, but Honey took her opportunity when it was presented. Yeah,
I mean, it was great swim from Honey and another pleased Olympic qualifier, which I was very pleased about. She really, really kept her cool on that one, I think, because and she just went for it from the start. And I think probably expected to be a bit behind Katie Shanahan, who had a best time that was, some way in the distance. I do think Katie, although I'm absolutely sure she'll be on the team in multiple events, is possibly a little bit disappointed with her week. She was a little bit off some of her best times, particularly in the 200 IM, which, you know, she's been a low 209 on before. So I think we'll be a little bit disappointed, but she's done the job, got on the team, I assume, and then we'll have the chance to do it when it really matters in Paris.
Well, she did swim her lifetime best in the 400 IM. So, but I know exactly what you mean about being disappointed. I mean, she's almost certainly qualified because she got 2 nomination times in runners-up spots. But I'm sure, she'd have wanted to go a bit better, well, particularly in that 200 backstroke, which is, you know, I've been championing her in that event for ages, and you know, I think she's got huge potential, and she would have wanted to go better.
Yeah, and it's one of those weeks where did she get a taper right? Did she get overwhelmed by the environment in there? I don't know. It could be a combination of things, but I was a little bit surprised because it wasn't quite on point for her that week. But I'm with you in terms of what she potentially can do going forward. So I would not be surprised if we don't see a very different and much speedier version in about 14 weeks.
I think something to remember is that although it feels like Katie's been on British teams for ages now, she's never been to an Olympics, and it is the pinnacle of the sport, and it will feel bigger at Olympic trials than it has felt at other British champs that are potentially World Championship trials or Commonwealth trials. It's completely understandable if she's really, really nervous, and I imagine however nervous she was for this trials, she probably won't be as nervous when it gets to Paris. There is something weird about trials that can bring out a sort of whole other level of nerves, particularly when you're someone like Katie Shanahan and you're one of 2 or 3 who could possibly make it. So I think it's a difficult position to be in, and in a way I sort of not surprised to see nerves maybe getting the better of her if that's what it was. But she's done the job. Yeah,
and we also saw nerves as well in the 100 breaststroke, didn't we?
Well, indeed, yeah. Angara Evans slower in the final than in the heat, having gone so close to the British record in the morning. If she'd done the times the other way around, she'd have been off to Paris. So it's pressure does strange things to people, doesn't it? So I think hopefully she will get her spot via the medley relay, if nothing else, because the selectors have got space to manage that kind of situation. But as you say, when things are on the line, strange things happen to people. So it can happen to the best of them. All right, well, while we're talking about pressure, let's talk about 2 of the events on the men's freestyle side, which probably had the biggest pressure of any of them. I mean, one we would have expected, one which perhaps we weren't quite expecting. And let's do that one first, which is the 100 freestyle. I mean, we knew there would be a big battle to get on the relay team. Katie, I don't think we thought it would be quite such a big battle when it takes 48.6 to make the top 8.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like, I know this is showing my age, but I remember, particularly as I was at the same club as him, the first GB man to go under 50, and that doesn't feel that long ago. And now we've suddenly got like so many guys under 49, and we've got several who can go under 48. It's just how much this event has moved on. It's just absolutely incredible, and it's just not an event that I would have looked forward to, particularly for us. It would have just been one of those events where we're not that great, but now we're really great.
And it was a high quality final, Bob. I was chatting to Matt afterwards on Sunday at the end of the meet, and he said that being in the World Championship final in 100 free in Fukuoka was less daunting and less stressful than swimming that race on Wednesday, whatever night it was, because you've got to get in the top 2 to get the spot, you've got to get in the top 4 to get the relay, and everyone was coming for it.
Well, that was my big question, I think, on the night to him, was what's happened to 100 freestyle male swimming in the last 3 years? We've got not quite on the scale of the 200 freestyle, but it's getting pretty close to it now.
As you say, you did speak to Matt in the mixed zone, and here's what he had to say.
Matt, what has happened to men's 100 metres freestyle in this country in the last 3 years?
I mean, it's safe to say it's got pretty quick. Yeah, look, it's really exciting. I can't wait to see what we can do together in the summer. But yeah, I'm just super pleased with that result for me. I thought I could have gone a little bit quicker tonight, but it wasn't quite there. Some technical bits weren't quite right, but we'll fix that throughout the week.
What kind of things aren't you happy with?
Just some of the smaller technical bits. My execution around the breakouts was pretty poor. My last 15 metres felt like it went on forever, but those are all things we can tighten up into the summer.
Now, I chose that bit, Katie, specifically because it shows exactly what a perfectionist he is. I mean, he's just come out, won the Olympic trials for Great Britain, 47 high or something, in a really stressful race. And his first response is, "Oh, well, I didn't quite do that right, and I couldn't quite do that right, and I know I can do a lot better into the summer." So, that's A, exciting because he thinks he can go faster, and B, probably why he is as fast as he is.
Yeah, and why we keep seeing him improving the way that he is. I think you listen to that interview, and it's hard to remember that he's so young still as well, and he's right up there. One of the best in the world in multiple events now, 50, 100 and 200 free. I just think a year and a half ago we probably wouldn't have predicted that we'd be seeing this version of Matt Richards. It's great. He's becoming I think a sort of real headline swimmer for us, and I say that off the back, I suppose, of his 200 free World Championships last year, but it's every event that he swims. It's really, really exciting.
And when we talked about depth, Bob, behind him, Duncan Scott, 47 point again, Tom Dean, 47 point, and Alex Cahoon, who's been the coming man in this event, 48.2. Really great depth, and we say a lot, but hopefully they can put it together for the relay this summer.
Yeah, and amazing. We're not mentioning Jacob Whittle at this point either, who was our big up-and-coming star from, 2 or 3 years ago, who's obviously there on the fringe, probably will be part of the relay team in the heats, maybe going into that one. But yeah, the depth now is, and the names just coming out. And again, I coming back to this, other swimmers inspiring, which is what kind of throws me a bit on the 4 and the 8 for the women is, you see people doing great times in the 100 free or 200 free, inspires other people to want to go and do the same thing. So then 4 becomes 6, becomes 8, becomes whatever. And it's just fantastic that this drip feed we're now getting, certainly in men's freestyle at the lower end, 100s and 200s, is phenomenal. And it is on a par with pretty much any other country in the world.
No, very, very impressive. But let's step up then to the 200 free, the closing event to the meet, which never fails to deliver the drama, Bob, and they were doing a great job of amping up the crowd and everything, and there was a great atmosphere in the London Aquatics Centre, and it was another fabulous race.
I changed my top 2 I think 3 times between watching the heats in the morning and watching the final in the evening. I actually never wavered from the winner. I just had a feeling in my gut, having seen him do the 50 and the 100, that it was going to be Matt Richards to win it. Second place, having seen how well James went in the morning, I was thinking it might be him. And Duncan obviously had the hardest heat of the 3 because he had to go first. I'm thinking maybe it's him. And then Tom had a really good one. So I kept changing my mind all the way through about who was going to finish second, and ultimately, Duncan, as he always does, or always seems to do, and I was never back against him, was the one who followed Matt in the end, and it was a phenomenal performance. And again, you think how many swims potentially he's going to have to do in Paris. It's a really, really hard ask, but he's the kind of swimmer who'll do just that.
And Duncan was the swimmer, Katie, that you specifically wouldn't write off on our preview, and you were right not to do that.
Yeah, I still think that I was like Bob, changing my. I think I was always going with Matt Richards as the winner on that one, but my second place it was either Duncan or Tom for me, and I think I said Tom in the end, showing that I really do need to remember not to write off Duncan. And after he'd done that 200 IM as well, both of them actually, and they'd been so strong, and Tom had come back like an absolute train in the 200 IM. It just makes it harder to know, and I mean it's a good problem to have, isn't it? All of our 200 guys are just so good, we can't even pick who's gonna have those 2 individual spots. I think Tom Dean was pretty disappointed, but he's such a pro. He always gives such good interviews, even when he's really disappointed. And I get that not being able to defend your Olympic title will feel like a pretty crushing disappointment for him, but always gives credit to others. to be honest, I think Duncan was disappointed as well. I think anytime we see Duncan not winning an event, he's disappointed, which just shows his ambition and kind of what we think that he's capable of achieving. So, yeah, brilliant. Hats off to Matt Richards, but what a close race for others. And well done to James Guy for getting on that team on the last opportunity, which must have been a really high pressure situation for him. And how much did he go for it on that 200 free?
Well, he did, and his best time since 2017 as well. So evidently the changes he's making, or the changes he's made by moving to Millfield, are working for his freestyle, even if they didn't necessarily show in his fly this week. So yeah, fair play to him. All right, let's move on and talk about some other bits and bobs. We had a question come in from Ian. He wanted to ask us, Katie, and since you mentioned how well Sterling had done, I'm going to come to you on this one. In Bath, they didn't have the best of weeks, it felt like. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as some people have made out when you look at it. Obviously, Tom made the team, or is likely to make the team. Kieran Bird from her best time just missed the nomination time in the 400 free. Brodie Williams swam the nomination time in the 200 back, but obviously had two people faster than him. But it just felt like Bath were a little bit flat, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, and also part of it will be the fact that, we just saw Freya Anderson doing one event, and we know that she's been really unwell. So even doing that was huge, and I thought she did a pretty incredible effort in that 100 freestyle, but she wasn't the I guess pretty dominant figure that we generally see in the freestyle event. She wasn't able to do that, so that also kind of impacts the impression that they're making. But it did feel like they were a bit off, and I think maybe it's because we expect to see everyone being at their very best, when you get to an Olympic trials, which is the most important domestic event that we hold, and when other groups like Dave Hemming's group and like Sterling and various others are stepping up so much, if anybody doesn't take that step up with them, then they look to be pretty distant. I don't know what's going on with Bath, if anything is going on with Bath, honestly, but they've got I imagine a couple of swimmers on the team, but maybe more in the discretionary picks, but I would imagine that there'll be a few disappointed people there.
Indeed. And yes, maybe a few of them will get added through the discretionary picks. So that seems like a good time to move on and speak about those. By my reckoning, 23 spots have gone through those who won and got nomination times, the relay quartets when those are made up, and the runners-up who also got the nomination time. So that would leave 7 discretionary picks. Bob, I know you've been thinking about who you might slot into those. Do you want to share with us where it's going?
Shall I go with a really controversial one first?
Yeah, go on then.
I was having a discussion with somebody who actually agreed with me about this. I was walking away from the London Aquatic Centre on Sunday. I would take Amelie Bloksic for experience for 2028, because she is a great talent. She is not going to let us down in the 1500. She's 12th in the world right now, so she's not like 20th or 25th. She's 12th in the world right now in the 1500. I think she is the future. I think she's going to be a superstar. I think she could be our Katie Ledecky going forward. So why not give her the chance to go to the Olympics this time? So next time round, when she's been in that environment, she's going to be a lot better.
Katie, would you like to come back on that point?
So I agree that she's the future, and I agree that she's going to be a superstar, but I do not agree that she should be going to the Olympics. I think you don't take someone to the Olympics for experience. This is what we've set our standards at. We've set our standards at having people who are going to be competitive when they go. And if it's your first Olympics, if it's your fourth Olympics, it doesn't matter. I'm going to finish, Bob. Bob, I'm going to finish. She's 12th in the world, and there are still multiple countries to have their trials. I guarantee you, and this is no disrespect to her, can I just say at this point, she's 14, maybe she's 15 now, but either way, she's amazing. She's an absolutely amazing swimmer. But our standards are as they are. And in my mind, that means she's not good enough to go to the Olympics at the moment. I don't mean that she's not a brilliant swimmer, but she hasn't earned her place on that squad. That's what I think. I also think And this is one of the few things that Bill Sweetenham said that has actually stuck with me as something that I massively agree with. I think it's really important to, particularly when you're a young swimmer, to go places and win. I think it is much better for her to go to the European Juniors and win the European Juniors, which I think she will do, than it is to go to the Olympics, swim one event and finish 12th, 15th, 20th, whatever. I don't see her making the final. And I think that would put her in a position where she is at the bottom of a very high achieving pile, which I don't think is a nice place to be. So I think in terms of her development, it would be much better for her to make a world's team next time round. She will have represented a senior GB team multiple times by the time we get to LA, and she'll perform brilliantly, but she doesn't need to go to this Olympics.
Okay,
that's my view.
She won't have been in the village.
Yeah, she will. She'll go to. Well, no, actually, she might not go to Commonwealth Games.
There's no Commonwealth Games. 2026.
You don't need to have been in a village. There are plenty of people who will go to their first Olympics. I will raise you, Rebecca Adlington, going to her first Olympics and coming home with 2 golds. It's not a problem.
There we go. I'm feeling that we could probably debate this one for several hours, and we will wait and see what Bill and Chris do in respect to. She won't. Emily.
I'm sure they won't select her, but I'd like them to. Because I think also with the fact that we've got no representation at 4, 8 and 15 worries me too. But there you go.
That is disappointing, admittedly, but I don't see that as a reason why they will pick her. But anyway, we will see on that particular score. Anyone else, Bob, who you've got your eye on? I mean,
I think James Wilby should go. James Wilby should go for. There are a couple of reasons why. Obviously, we need a backup for Adam in the 100 breaststroke for a start. I think he's never let us down at international level. Look at what he's achieved: Commonwealths, Worlds, Europeans. I think he's worthy of his place on the team. So I would take James Wilby.
I was kind of against that point until I looked at the schedule for Paris and figured out that the mixed medley and men's medley overlap each other, and so Adam would have to do his 3 individual races and then 4 relay legs in 3 days at the end of the week. So yes, I agree. I think that's probably a likely pick. We've spoken about obviously the women's medley relay, maybe taking Angara Evans for that. We've spoken about taking Freya Anderson, maybe. If they do Katie with a 4x1 free in mind, obviously she would boost a 4x2 if she's at all fit. Do you think that would signal possibly a selection for Eva Akaro? She was very impressive with a lifetime best in the 100 free.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think some of the girls that we would generally hope would be in our 4x1, we'd expect to see in a 4x100 freestyle team, didn't perform to the sort of level we'd expect. I think Lucy Hope was maybe a little bit slower on the 100 than she would have liked to have been in that we've seen her previously. With Freya on Freya form, if that's something we can hope for, I really think that team's competitive. I'm not sure they're on the podium, but I think far more competitive than we've seen a 4x1 freestyle team for women for years. And I think I hope it's one that we put a bit of focus on. When you're adding up times to try and make a goal time, and you've got someone who's really, really unwell, as Freya has been, I just think that's a classic case where this discretion needs to be applied. So I hope so. I was really impressed by Eva Akaro in both her 50 and 100 this week.
Yeah, indeed.
I have one more.
Oh, go for it, Bob.
Right. Now, bear in mind the news that came out today about the Seine and the possibility that might get cancelled. I would take Toby Robinson, because I think he'll be there anyway. He's going to be there for the open water, and I think actually give him a chance in the 1500 may not be a bad thing.
No, Kieran Bird.
I might, if you got enough numbers.
I think he was really, really close, and it would be nice to have someone. And as you said, we don't have any women in the 4, 8 or 15. We're not going to have, if we don't take Kieran Bird, we won't have a man in the 4 or the 8. We do have Dan Jervis in the 15. Yay, we like him very much. But yeah, I thought he was so close at the time. I think when people are that close and they're also getting the World Aquatics A time, and we've got space, they probably ought to go. But we'd like to see him be a little bit closer to where he was at trials this time round if he does end up in Paris.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think Toby's an interesting one because I don't think he would count against the 30 necessarily either. Obviously, already having a confirmed spot for the open water, so it may be that they don't include him in the 30, but they let him swim the 1500 anyway. But we will see on that score.
Is it a different sport though? I think
yes.
It counts as a different sport. I don't know. But it's all to do with number of accreditations or something boring like that, isn't it?
Yeah, so he won't take up an accreditation, will he, for Team GB? So, or an extra one to swim in the pool, you wouldn't have thought. So, anyway, that will all come out undoubtedly.
Imagine
in
with
the wash.
the Italians, for example, the ones who do the 1500, many of them do, of course, 2 of them do. They won't get accreditation twice, will they? They're just for the one.
No, yeah. Or Wellbrock or someone in the Germans. Yeah. So, yeah. No, I think it's... I think that's probably the case. It's just whether, Aquatics GB will count him as one of their 30. We will see when that comes out. All right, I think this is a good time to draw things to a close. The team is due to be announced on the 16th of April. So all of these debates and speculation will come to a conclusion then when the team is announced. It's been a great week, Bob, Katie, fantastic chewing it over with you. Wonderful, obviously, to see such fast swimming, and fingers crossed that people will push it on into Paris. As I said earlier on, I'll be cutting and slicing Bob's interviews in the mix zone to put together some more reaction from the swimmers as they came through and spoke to him. So look out for that. But if you want to get in contact in the meantime, any questions or responses to what we've said on this podcast, you can find me on social media, on X @Poolboy, or on @PoolboyUK on Instagram and Facebook. But until we're back with you, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Poolboy Podcast. For more episodes, visit www.poolboy.co.uk/podcast.